Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of the Pirate Rugby Pod. We now have close to 500 YouTube subscribers and our next stop is 600. If you like what we do, please like, share and subscribe. Comments also give us a big boost and we always respond to everyone. If you're only here for Thistle the cat and his shorts, stick around, you might decide you like rugby too.
A reminder that you can find us on Twitter and sign up to our free Substack. Links for both are below. If you follow us, you'll get updates every time we drop a new piece of content, whether it be a podcast, video, or long-form article. We've just dropped the first of a new series called The Sunday Read, which comes out every Sunday. This will be looking at the match attendances in France was the first one, and how they compare to the other European leagues. Link again in the description below. But now I must introduce our wonderful guests, our first guests of 2024. Yes, guests, plural. And we are extremely excited to be saying ciao and buonasera to the cast of Spritz and Scrums, the Italian rugby podcast, Ellie, Eddie, and Richard, aka Coach. Good evening, guys.
Hello.
Ciao.
My terrible thing that I'm always awful at is pronunciation, so I'll probably pronounce both of those horrendously.
I think you did really well.
Oh, thank you. So Ellie is joining us live from Rome this evening.
Live from Rome. There's no rugby on at the minute, but I've been enjoying plenty of spritzes and red wine and pasta, and definitely need to get back to England. Hilariously, to just go on a diet. Come back to England for my diet.
Oh, yeah, I'm still not really. I'm still trying to polish off all of the Christmas alcohol. So international podcast coming from at least three separate countries. So we have to do an international weather check. It is absolutely Baltic here in the Midlands of England. Enda, what's it like over in Dublin at the moment?
Baltic, horrific. Don't want to go outside.
Coach, where are you coming to us from?
From Birmingham.
Oh, so we're quite close.
Baltic. Yeah. Where are you based?
Leamington.
Oh, just down the road.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's Royal Leamington.
Royal Leamington Spa, yes, thank you.
Royal Leamington Spa.
And Ellie, it's lovely and sunny in Rome, I assume?
It's been beautiful, yeah. I don't want to make you guys too jealous. It dropped a little bit today, but it's been sort of regular kind of 18 degrees. Warm, like, to be honest, it's sort of unclimactically warm for this time of year. It's not normal, but yeah, it's been lovely, sunny. Yeah, can't complain. Coming back to Baltic London tomorrow though, so.
Oh yeah, we've made a call just for you. Anyway, we'll start with our rugby moment of the week then. Enda, what was yours?
So mine was about the league that nobody cares about, so the URC. So it was Ivan Van Ruyn's Ruyn, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but just his reaction to the Lions beating the Sharks. For me, that's what this kind of season of the URC has been all about. It's been about the upsets and a bit about the underdogs. And yeah, it was a game in front of 19,000 people away from home at Kings Park. When you compare the budgets, when you compare the attendance figures, the players, everything, all the odds were stacked against the Lions, and they managed to come away with a win. I know it was tight and the Sharks maybe should have won, but for me, the Lions have been really impressive so far this season. Didn't know hardly any of their players before the beginning of this season, and now I can't get enough of watching them. So for me, that was probably my moment. What about yourself, Huw?
So my moment comes from England, and it's from Bath versus Gloucester, where at half time, the fullback for Gloucester has the ball and he's just marked it, and there's about 35 seconds left on the clock, and he's about to kick it, and Gavin Hastings runs over and goes, wait, and stops him, and then he takes the ball and he goes to the referee like, are we allowed to kick it dead just from a mark? We're not, are we? And the referee's like, yeah, you are. And he's like, no, we're not, because you can't, because it's like, the referee's like, no, you can kick it dead. And he's like, what? It's like, yeah, you can kick it dead. It's like, you're saying that we can kick the ball dead? He's like, yeah. It's like, okay, cool. It taps it dead, and it's half time. By the time they've had that conversation, the clock's gone into the red, and they all run off the pitch. It's like just beautiful shithousery, the kind of thing that I absolutely respect. Anyway, Richard, what was your moment of the week? Do you have one?
It's not particularly about a game, but it was more about the news of Farrell potentially going to Racing. Mainly because I was really looking forward to him maybe just moving over to League, so loads of people can put slightly higher shots on him. And I would just love to see what that would look like. And I always thought he would. I thought he always would move that way. But obviously, there's money to be made.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him if he went, and he gets to be Sia Khaleesi's best friend as well, which I would be massively jealous of.
Yeah.
How about you, Ellie? You got a
Clutch
moment?
the likes.
I mean, being Sia Khaleesi's best friend is definitely would be my moment of the year. But my moment of the week, I feel like I have to kind of represent. It was in a friendly between the under-20s, Italy v France, and Italy won, and it was great. I mean, France won at their best, I'm sure. Yeah, Italy beat France in the friendly game this weekend. Yeah, it was beautiful, and a couple of, well, one really stunning try that kind of came out of nowhere. A young winger basically catches a really crappy crossfield kick, steps his opposite wing, palms off another guy, makes a massive run, and then does this beautiful underhand offload to the fullback who takes it in for the try. Beautiful. Yeah. So it's very exciting. And I'm bad. I should know how many times the under-20s have beaten France, but it's rare. So it's a sign of good things to come.
France are the under-20s world champions, so that makes it special. Yeah. How about you then, Eddie? What's your moment?
Well, do you want the downer or the potential good one?
Why not both?
If you like, and start with the downer, and then.
And the downer, well, it's obviously the news about JPR, who's passed away. Who's obviously such a legend of rugby, which is obviously very sad because he actually wasn't that old. And I remember when I used to watch like the old Barbarians. When I was like such a loser, I bought the DVDs of the old Barbarians games of like the glory era when I was about 15 years old, and I'd watch them. So yeah, that's tragic and sad. But the good one would be the trailer, which is literally, I think, just dropped, of the Six Nations. What do you call it? Docudrama?
Yeah, we've talked about it a fair bit on this because we had a Formula One guest on talking about Drive to Survive, and we knew that we had the rugby version of this. What's it called? Full Contact, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Have you guys discussed the name and your feelings towards that name?
We haven't. Yeah, I don't think Drive to Survive is a particularly good name either, so I'm not that fussed about it.
True. No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no relegation in Formula One. But I'm mixed feelings about this Six Nations documentary because since watching the trailer, because I'll admit I wasn't a Formula One fan. Drive to Survive got me in, like it did millions of other people, and now we never miss a race. And watching this trailer, I think maybe it might be as basic as Drive to Survive is. Because I know Drive to Survive is great for me, but for Formula One fans, they weren't really into it.
Exactly.
And I feel like this we might watch it and go, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if that trailer didn't have that soundtrack today, I don't know if we would have been as engrossed in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, good point.
It reminded me of Drive to Survive immediately, and I was like, for a rugby fan, are we really going to like this? Well, hopefully it'll be good, but I'm.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough to get them both to like please the avid rugby fan and also get millions of other people into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess if one's more important than the other, it's probably the latter, getting more people into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. That it's such a great, because I was a Formula One fan for years, and then Drive to Survive happened, and I'm seeing people on the street wearing Mercedes merch, and I'm like, go away! I don't want you in my sport.
Then you started watching rugby.
Yeah, and then I started watching rugby. Yeah, it's such a good point that it's probably not going to be that interesting for rugby fans unless there's something like crazy and weird that we don't see. Because the good thing about Formula One is you see them all swearing and stuff that you obviously never see.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's what we'll get out of it, is like the sort of little gossipy bits that you well, I guess you can get a bit more out of Formula One because there's only 20 of them. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, cool. Right. Anyway, let's talk about some actual rugby then. So we've got you on because we have been super excited about both Benetton and Zebre all season and how amazing they've been doing. So we'll talk about Benetton first. So who can tell us a bit about because it feels like this Benetton project has been building for a few years now. It started with them getting all the coaches, and then this year they've really brought in some star signings, and it's all got a bit exciting. So I don't know, maybe Coach, you could talk us about how this Benetton side, it's not like a flash in the pan year. This feels like the combination of several years worth of work.
Well,
Yeah, go on, Coach. Tell us.
Well, it's many years of work that's gone into this. Obviously, Kieran Crowley has set the foundations that they're building on at the moment. But I mean, I've been a fan since 2019 when I first went over, and basically they've just been building. They've been very close to the Italian setup, and it's showing because it's very osmosis-like. You can see the Benetton team, and then you see the Italy team that they put out in the Six Nations, and it's very, very similar. And the way that they've been building is essentially getting good players, and they've obviously had a very good poaching of the situations with Wasps, and they've done quite well at that. They've brought basically a group of friends together, and it certainly showed. This year. And I'd say probably at the beginning of the year, we were very, very nervous because we thought they were slipping into an English playing style, which was very much kick heavy. And it started the season, we were winning, but we were winning ugly. And now we're winning with a bit of a balance to it. But at the beginning of the season, we were definitely a bit nervous about that. But we were getting the wins. And I think we've got more to come. I think the Six Nations is going to have a bit of a impact on us, but it's been growing. It's been really good to watch, and I'd say, like I said, since 2019. But this is the first sort of year that I've been really feeling like a really big fan of the team because I've seen them sort of grow over the last three years. Players that started maybe on their first contract are sort of shining through now. And yeah, I'm starting to get very aggressive, a bit hooliganist. When I'm watching the television, starting to scream and shout. But it's been a great 3 years, and I think it's going to bleed into the Six Nations going forward. And I'm quite excited. Now, Benetton have definitely reined in the territory game, and we've got a lot coming for us, I feel.
I think it's quite funny when you think back, like, I mean, we sort of roped Coach into this because Eddie and I sort of started following Benetton a few years prior to this. And I think when we think back to a couple of seasons ago, Benetton didn't win a single game all season. And then the following sort of semi-season, they went on to win the Rainbow Cup. That just sort of, you go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And that was right at the end of Kieran's kind of tenure. And as Coach said, like having Kieran then step into the Italy role, having worked with Benetton and knowing all the players there, and that sort of collaboration, which I think, I might be wrong, but I think there has always been a close collaboration between the national team and Zebre and Benetton. But I think having Kieran there really, really helped. I find it staggering when I think back to that totally winless season.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way?
And are we allowed to swear?
We are indeed.
We are allowed to.
Great. Well, I'll try not to, but sometimes I just get so excited. Yeah. But no, I think you hit the nail on the head talking about the recruitment, the coaches. I mean, they had Paul Gustard, who was there for a while, and that didn't really work very well for them. As you could tell, because he sodded off quite quickly to Paris. And that happens a bit to Benetton. They get some big names in, or they get some good scouts, and then you get the impression that those guys are only just there as a stepping stone, like biding their time for someone else to come and pick them off. But I feel what's different they've got now with the people they've got, with Callum McRae, they're there for the long term, and they're buying into Bortolami's vision, and the players as well, because obviously, as Coach said, when Wasps went down, and I was a Wasps fan as a kid, so I was gutted about that. And then London Irish, who would have thought, Zebre Parma took their Italians back from London Irish pretty sharpish, and that was good for them. And that's proven to be good for them. And Benetton were all over the Wasps players. They put their hands in their pockets and they got them. But what's really good is that not only did they get them, but they got Jacob Umanga. It was like, okay, great. They've managed to get one of the bright stars of the Premiership. But he's just signed for another 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So it isn't just sort of like a stepping stone.
We said, didn't we, guys, that on the last couple of episodes we were like, God, Jacob's playing really well at the minute. He's going, because we didn't know, but we knew his contract was up, and we just assumed he'd get poached. The fact that he has committed an extra 2.5 years, I think, shows his belief in the team that he's surrounded by. It's not, because aside from everything, he's living in a country that, a completely brand new country, learning a new language. Like, it's a huge upheaval. So it would be totally normal for him to, spend a year out there and then get a better offer or another offer somewhere else. But he's chosen to commit. And I think he said it when we were out there last weekend for the derby. So many of the players were just saying, like, you can feel within the club that there's a real kind of team collaborative effort and belief. And you guys have mentioned like the recruiting that they've done. We've discussed it on the podcast ourselves. Sometimes it's almost like they have too many players because they've bought so many players. There's actually some of our younger ones, or like the Italians and the sort of under 20s or whatever, who just don't get game time because we've recruited so well and we have so many players.
As you just said, that you're going to go into the Six Nations now and lose all these players, but someone like Fekitoa, he's not playing in the Six Nations.
Exactly. So historically what happened before was, this URC, or Pro 14 as it was, didn't take a break for the Six Nations. It would continue going, and it'd be really a luck of the draw who you got in that period, in that window. If you ended up with a Glasgow, great, because Glasgow would also be robbed of all their players. But if you end up against some of the Welsh sides, for example, or the Irish sides, sort of Leinster, they've lost a few, but it's spread over 4 teams, so they individually are less screwed by the Six Nations. This year there is a bit of they've taken some weeks off, haven't they? But I still think there's Benetton are playing Leinster in the middle of the Six Nations, not in a game weekend, but I'm pretty sure they're in there.
I think you're right, yeah.
And there's another one. But yeah, with the players they've got, it gives an opportunity. It's basically like Benetton can put out 2 sides, an Italian side and a non-Italian side. They also have a rule in Italy, like it's not really enforced from what I've seen, but they're in theory only meant to have 7 non-Italian qualified players in a side on any given match squad. And my Zebre fans would say, yeah, unless you're Benetton, and then you do whatever the hell you want.
So I was going to ask about the signings, because until you said it, I hadn't realised, and then it just clicked in my head that Jacob Umanga and Fekitoa, they got the cohesion from Wasps. I thought of Fekitoa as a Munster.
Them and Paolo Adogru and Watson.
And Watson.
That's such smart recruitment.
Isn't it?
So who's been the star then? Has Umanga been the big star boy, or who's been the one who's come in and going, wow, we've missed a player like this?
Well, again, I think it's not so much that Umanga's been great and he's sort of grown into it, and Fekitoa has come in and he's been amazing. But I think what Fekitoa does, in my personal opinion, and what Ignacio Brex does are quite similar. The difference is you can't have one of them playing all the time.
Yeah.
So it gives you that solid depth that when one's being rested, the other one's able to play.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my take. I mean, none of them I don't think have come in and blown the socks off everyone. The player that I think blows the socks off everyone is Rhino Smith.
So is he Italian qualified?
Rhino? No, I don't think so.
And I think he still need a couple of years.
I think he moved to Italy too late because they changed the qualification rules. They extended it, and I think he went there just after as well. So
I think he did. Yeah, I would sort of agree with that. I think Rhino actually had a really slow start to the season this season. We talked about it a lot in these sort of earlier episodes of this season. That we were just waiting for him to find his spark. And I think, as Coach mentioned earlier, Benetton started the season you can't kind of critique their defense. Their defense this season has been phenomenal, but they just weren't creating any real exciting attacking opportunities like they were last season. And we were like, it's just not clicking into place for Rhino.
But
having said that, in the last couple of games.
Just on that
I
note,
think I'm on delay, Eddie, so I
say,
can't hear you.
We are married, so if I interrupt her, she interrupts me all the time. So, just on in terms of the attack, though, they're obviously, I'm not sure how much drama it was, but Andrea Massi was the attack coach for Benetton. He started off to Toulon with Sergio Parise, and is now doing that job over on
at the end of last season,
French Riviera. So all the glorious attack that Benetton did have was his, and he went to Toulon. And now they've got Alessandro Troncon, who is in charge of the attack, who used to be a skills coach. And so I think it just took a bit of time for him to get his message across to the guys. What the plan is, because it's all well and good in training, and they had a massive preseason, but you need to put it in front of other people, don't you?
Yeah, and also they had a massive preseason, but obviously there was the World Cup, and a lot of the players were at the World Cup. So we had Jacob on the podcast towards the very end of last season, and he was like, "Yeah, we go off now for sort of mini holiday, but we're back in 2 weeks' time, and then preseason sort of 3 months long." And he was like, "What the hell are we going to do for 3 months?" But actually, he put solid work in, and he came back. Pretty much with that number 10 jersey nailed onto him. Considering that he's fighting that out with Albanos, who's superb. He's done really, really well. And when we spoke to him, he just moved over from the UK and was like, I've had to go from not speaking any Italian to having to give calls in Italian. And imagine having to do that on the fly. I would say, in terms of answering your question, going back to star player, I think Jacob's really shining. He had a slow start because he had a million things to adapt to, but he's looking great at the minute.
Yeah, love it. Richard, can you give us the name of maybe a player who's maybe not a superstar, someone that people who don't watch Benetton every week might not know who they are, but you think 2 years' time, this player could be a star that everyone's talking
about? I'd say, well, the thing is, everyone knows who he is. It doesn't really help, but I think he's going to be on the radar for everybody in going forward, and that's Menoncello. I don't know, he's kind of hidden because he's in the Italian world a bit, but
I don't know how. We assume that we all know him. Yeah, but I don't know how.
His name always springs out to me when the commentator says it because it sounds like a drink.
Yeah,
brutally honest.
Well, I think he was the youngest ever scorer in the Six Nations at 19.
Really? I didn't know that.
Either youngest or second youngest. I'm pretty sure the commentators said
the youngest. He was the youngest.
And that might have been on his debut. But then he injured. Then he was horrifically injured. He missed the World Cup for Italy. They really could have done with him. But he's coming back now. He should be back in the Six Nations. And Coach is right.
I'm so glad you said Menoncello, Coach. Yeah, he's my 100%, my one to look out for.
Paul Gostard, who again started off to Paris, said he was the most talented young player he'd ever worked with.
Wow. He's a centre, isn't he? Or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah.
He
came back. Right, and that's the debate we had a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. We were like, actually, Benetton's doing pretty well for centres. Between Menoncello, Fekitoa, Brex, Riera, there's a ton of them.
Drago.
I don't know. In a sort of make or break game, I might put Menoncello above Fekitoa. I'm saying it.
What's this?
Yeah.
Well, if any of your listeners ever go see a game at Stadio Stadium Inigo, everyone gets a free program.
Oh, cool.
To every game, and it's got the entire squad in it. So, I thought I'd just have a quick look at their centres.
So
we said.
So you mentioned the stadium there. So I think, Eddie, it was you and I who discussed this very briefly on Twitter. So it looks like Benetton is selling out pretty much every other week at the moment now.
Yeah.
So is there any plans to go to a bigger stadium or increase its capacity or anything?
They are adding a end-on stand. So if you're ever watching,
then we won't be able to see the cars in the car park.
Yeah, and whoever has the
don't worry, it's the other
building,
side.
they're going to be annoyed as well.
Oh, okay. So that's going to be...
Actually, they thought about that though, because they thought not about the car park, but when they're choosing the side, they've got the side that the players come out of. It's got that green hut, and on the right, you've got the side that most people come in from, and they're putting the stand there. And part of the consideration is so that they don't block the view of the Dolomites. Because when you're in the stadium, you can see the mountains to your left.
Very pretty.
Do they still have the hedges?
Yeah.
They've got hedges, yeah. The hedges next to the bar.
Yeah. Them and
Great
Leinster.
spot to watch and drink from. Yeah.
Do you not like the hedges? I love the hedges.
I like the hedges. I didn't say I didn't like the hedges. But it's them and Leinster, the two rugby teams with the hedges. And both top 1 and 2 in the URC, so obviously works.
Obviously.
There you go.
What's in the hedges?
What are they putting in those hedges?
Yeah. Don't check. Anyway, and Enda, did you want to ask a bit about Zebre then?
Yes, we wanted to move on to Zebre, but maybe I think from what I can see is in terms of points, Zebre are on 12 points so far this season, which as far as I can tell is more than they had at the end of the 2021 to 2022 season and last season. Is that right?
Yes, it is, Edna.
That's correct,
It is,
yeah.
Edna.
That is just, and like, so how like, do we think, is this a fluke? Like, how good really are they, do you think? Like, is this a recruitment piece, or is this just them finally gelling, or what do you guys think they are where they are at the moment?
So,
I mean, they had a shit show of a season last year. Let's say that. Let's start with that.
Yeah, they hadn't won a game for 28 games. But they had lots of young players, and they were absolutely butchered in a couple of key areas of the game last year, which meant it was impossible for them to win. So their scrum leaked penalties, just leaked. Every scrum was a penalty. And then their line-out defence was non-existent. So I think last season there was something like 3 hookers left Palmer with a hat-trick.
Right, wow.
Because it's and
that Sam Parry was one of those.
Almost definitely. I mean, there was nothing they could do to stop it. So they would be scoring tries, they'd be playing good rugby, but at the end, and also, as you know, if you give so many penalties away in a scrum, you get yellow carded. So they spent ages with 14 men, and you just can't win rugby matches like that. But I think if you look at the stats this year, they have the 7th best scrum in the league. I think their line out is maybe 2nd or 3rd best in the league. They've done some real work on absolute basics, which then give them a foundation to compete in games. And there were some games earlier on which slipped away. I think they probably should have beat Cardiff. They drew with Cardiff. They beat Oyonnax away in France.
That was a great result.
A terrific result. This weekend, they've got the Dragons, which is one they'll definitely be looking at, as will the Dragons. I mean, that's going to be a cracker of a game. Low down the billing for most neutral fans, but it's going to be a belter. Yeah. So I think they are good enough. And my final point before I let someone else speak is that, because no one is allowed to speak when I'm speaking, is their defence last year wasn't great, but they did some great recruitment with in that area, and obviously they got Richard Hodges in, and it took some time for him to get the players to get his vision of what he wanted to do, but now you've seen that they are stopping tries, because you can't win if you concede 1 million points a game. So in answer to your question, yeah, I think they are. I don't see them taking a backward step from here. It's all moving forward. These aren't flukes. These are players who are getting older and better. And yeah.
Maybe one for
their maul
Sorry, go
defense
ahead.
has been incredible this year. No, sorry, I was just saying the way that they've been defending those rolling mauls has been unbelievable this year. I mean, who was one of their sorry, I can't remember. I feel like it might have been Cardiff, who have a great rolling maul, but I might be getting that wrong. But they stopped everyone in their tracks. It's been phenomenal to watch that turnaround. They went from kind of having sort of the worst discipline of the league to, I think, the URC stats have just come out for sort of up until now, and they have the number one discipline in the league overall. So there you go. That's how you stop losing every single game.
Because I think a lot of people would consider maybe Zebre a development side, but I think I've often heard it's interesting to get you guys' take on this. And apparently there's a lot, obviously, more funding involved, a lot of private money involved in Benetton, whereas Zebre, as far as I know, rely on most of their funding from the Italian Union. Is that the reality of the situation? That's why Benetton will potentially or have been better so far in this?
Yes. So that's why Benetton are able to do this crazy recruitment that Zebre Parma aren't able to do. I'm going to throw some numbers at you, and then I'm sure some people will write in and say they're completely wrong. But that's fine. I'll be long gone by then, and you'll have to deal with it.
I can relate. So please continue, and we can be in trouble together.
I think each franchise gets about 6 million from the FAR every season. Zebre Parma are able to get some sponsorship on top of that, which puts it up a little bit.
Well, like Benetton's a company, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but what I mean is that, like, you know, Zebre Parma's budget would be probably towards the bottom of Pro D2, which isn't no bad thing. Pro D2 have a colossal budget, as you know, whereas Benetton, they're more than able to well over double the money they get from the FIR. I mean, the Benetton family that own them, obviously they're a family of billionaires, and then the sponsorship opportunities they've got up there are huge. It's an incredibly wealthy part of the country, and it's rugby mad. That's where the home of rugby in Italy really is. And if, you know, half an hour away, you've got Rovigo, and half an hour away from that, you've got Padua, who both have sides, but if they were given the opportunity, could get the same amount of money that Benetton has, because the town is mad on their rugby club. So yeah, Zebre Parma financially is in a different league to what Benetton's able to achieve.
Yeah. Cool. This isn't in the script, Enda, but it's just popped into my head, so I wanted to ask, what happened to Calvisano? Because have Calvisano gone now? Because they're not in the top 10 anymore, are they? Or
they have. I don't know how they went, why they went, but they just. I think they just went bust. I think they just renamed the league as if they were. Yeah. And I think it's going down again. I think they're changing the number of teams in it again.
I think I don't know the ins and outs of what happened, but kind of out of, for us anyway, I'm sure if you were like local and super into sort of what's now been renamed Serie A Elite, I'm sure maybe there were more sort of more warning about what was happening with Calvisano, but it went bust and disappeared.
But those teams in Serie A Elite, some of them have quite a lot of money. So actually, they're semi-pro teams, but some of those players are paid quite big bucks, and they are actually there as professionals. And lots of the players that you would have seen for Italy in the last few Six Nations, they're all there. There was quite a sort of, it seems from the outside, quite a ruthless cutting of their older Italian stars, and they were all funneled right back in to play in their domestic league to try and get the level of the domestic league up. So it's quite an interesting league, and it needs to take off a bit more. But there's two teams there definitely who I know are feeling very bitter about not being in the URC.
I didn't know any of that. I love this. And people always talk about, you know, what the next iteration of the URC might look like and what teams might get added from Georgia or Portugal or anything. I never considered that there might be another Italian team. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is though that Zebre need to get competitive enough to justify the URC, wanting another Italian team, which, we said at the beginning of this season, all Zebre need to do is come clear from being at the bottom of the league, and they've massively improved and stepped up.
So an issue there. So the three biggest rugby clubs, Zebre Parma aside, who are they were put in Parma. They were a touring team, a bit like the Barbarians, and they were put in Parma for the URC. But the three biggest rugby clubs are Rovigo, Petrarca, and Benetton Rugby, and they're all about half-hour drive from each other. So the issue there is if you put one of them in the BK2 URC, you're actually not spreading the game across the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So it's not in anyone's interest to do it, because apparently there's a big rugby playing population in Milan and an even bigger rugby population in Roma, and they're completely unrepresented by elite sport, rugby sport. So that's where you need to put them. But yeah, they do actually desperately need a third team, in my opinion, because each team, Zebre Parma and Benetton, have got squads of about 50 players.
Yeah.
And there's not enough game time for them to play. So they need somewhere else, another funnel. But yeah, as Ellie says, you need Zebre Parma to win. Otherwise, everyone's going to go, hang on a minute. Why are we going to let another Italian side in?
Yeah. All right.
And I mean, a lot of the so Benetton, sort of the younger players who get scooped up into the Benetton academies and then start playing for or are technically contracted under Benetton or Zebre, then get put out on loan to the Serie A teams. For example, Gallerini, who he's still in the Italy under-20s. He had one game. He's had one game so far for Benetton this season. It was kind of one of the smaller games. I don't know when he's next going to play for Benetton, because I mean, where would you play him? When do you play him? So it's, as I say, it's kind of a bit of a curse having like these teams, these massive like 60 odd players contracted to your team, because some of them are literally just showing up to train and never actually getting any game time. So yeah, the league below thankfully is picking them up.
Send them to Wales. We need some players. They're good. Send them our way.
Yeah, we should tell them
that. No. Okay.
But yeah, sorry, just to finish on that, the point that Eddie makes about kind of just the regions, and rugby is huge in Veneto, but essentially like the rest of the country doesn't get a look in. Like if you're a young player in especially the south, sort of Naples down, I mean, where do you go? You have to go north. And so even putting Zebre in Parma, a lot of people are really angry about it, because that's Italy is a very long country, and really Parma to Benetton is still only a 2-hour drive. Like it's not, but then equally it's tricky because the rugby mad part of the country is there. So yeah, it's a bit of an issue that they haven't quite solved.
This is so cool. Anyway, I could sit here and talk about Italian rugby all night, and we'll have to get you back on and talk about it some more again in the future. But it is half term in the URC. We have played 9 games each, apart from 1 or 2 of the South Africans who've got a game behind. So we thought, as a bit of fun, what we'd like to do now is do our URC half-term reports and go down the list of all of the teams in the league in league order, and assign each of them a grade to how we think we'll be doing this so far. We're not doing this alone, so we put out a series of polls on our Twitter account where all the fans could go on and rank each team themselves. And if you add up all of the votes that we've got well over 5,000 votes from the followers. So that's incredible. So thank you so much to everybody who's chipped in and given us some support on that. So let's jump straight into it. We're going to go top to bottom. So we'll start off with some boring positivity and get into some really juicy negativity towards the end. So, Enda, you can go first because it's Leinster up first. How would you rank their season so far? Speaking to Leinster people on places like Blue Sky and things, they're not all that happy. don't know. Do you think they're just being a bit spoiled, or is there something a bit off about Leinster this season?
I don't know if that a bit off. Like I definitely give them an A ranking. Like they do have Nienaber in, and he is there. I think they're kind of in a transition phase. There are a lot of people saying that Leinster are playing a bit more negatively this season. But for me, I'm a Connacht fan first, but probably a Leinster fan second. That I don't mind that. I think it's potential. Like I think Nienaber and a focus on defence and just a bit of dog is something that Leinster maybe needed. And I think that win away to La Rochelle kind of reinforced that for me. So although they've 2 losses so far this season in the URC, it's kind of odd to see them only 2 points ahead on top of the log. You don't often see that, but I think it's good for the league overall. But I think they're just in a bit of a transition phase. They still have the players. They probably have potentially better coaches than they did last season. I wouldn't be too concerned. I don't think, maybe some people might be happy if they're playing a more South African style, with a bit of a more of a focus on the kicking game and the pressure game and all of that. But I think they're still going to be thereabouts. They beat La Rochelle. I know La Rochelle aren't having a great season, but not many teams go down there and get a win, especially a win ugly against a really strong side. I think that for me could have been a turning point for Leinster. Like I know they lost recently against Ulster, but I wouldn't read too much into that. But I think it could be a huge season for them. And this is traditionally what happens, isn't it? When you do have a change in coach, like it's not an immediate change. Like it takes a while to get your philosophy across. And I think once Nienaber does, I think there could be even better than previous seasons. And let's not forget, Leinster haven't won it. Like they've been probably the best side in Europe for I don't know how long, if not maybe second best. But they've not to show for the last couple of years. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but I think they're on the right path, and it just might take a few losses to get there.
So Ed is going for an A. Does anyone disagree? Does anyone think higher, lower?
I did the thing on Twitter, and I gave it a solid A.
Yeah.
Because I think Enda's right. If you're an A star for Leinster, you're well and truly away. There's breathing space. Whereas to be 2 points ahead of a Benetton who have picked up next to no bonus points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jack knew now that there's clearly a fraud then, according to Eddie. So the people agreed. So we got 48% of the people on the poll voted for an A, and that was the grade that the people awarded them. So Benetton next. So coach, what grade would you give your own team this season? Now, Benetton are technically second in the league. However, Leinster have lost 2 games and Benetton have only lost 1. So,
right.
I'm Benetton are kind of top of the URC as we stand right now. That's how I'm reading.
The one caveat though is Zebre away and Zebre at home. I hate to say it and be negative, but that's part of the reason.
Can it beat what's in front of you?
It helps, but still, I'm not taking it away from them, but that does help.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But then Zebre are beating sides. But we'll talk about them later.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd give them a B, because they should have put some.
Imagine being his kid.
What?
Imagine being his kid.
I'm a harsh critic.
No,
But
look, I don't totally disagree with him.
We didn't get any bonus points. We should have won a few games. We made some silly mistakes, especially the last few minutes. I mean, they've almost caused me multiple heart attacks because of their last minute decisions.
When your team is good and they're winning games, it's less fun, isn't it? Because it's when you get to not winning. Like I support Newcastle United in football, and we used to lose all the time, and it's kind of ugh. But now we're good. When we lose, it's the end of the world. I can't live with it. So I don't know if you're getting the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's also, I guess, like I said earlier, just becoming a bit more of a diehard fan. Is that when you expect to win, and when they do silly things, it hurts twice as much.
Honestly, that draw against Munster, I was fuming.
Yeah. The draw against Munster was horrific, an absolutely horrific draw. but definitely should have been a win, and they absolutely gave it away. So that's why I gave them an A, but not an A star. But I didn't give them a
So
B. I'm not a
I'm going to
monster.
go in the middle. Can we go? I was going to go B plus A minus.
You can't do that. You didn't make this game
Controversial.
up. They made this game up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, sorry.
Play
But
on.
one thing that we didn't mention about Benetton that I think we should mention that definitely makes them slightly more worthier of more than a B, Coach, is the fact that last season Benetton gave away more points than anybody else in the last 20 minutes of games. That was their stat. This season they've given away the fewest amount of points than any other team in the last 20 minutes. So if that's not development, I don't know what is.
And the final development point is last season, I'm pretty sure they lost all their away games outside of Italy in the BKT URC. And this season, they seem to have broken the back of that. They started off winning on the road straight away. So that is a huge, huge improvement.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that 80% of the people who voted for A star. So
Suckers.
So
They're
kind.
easily pleased.
yeah. Anyway.
No, but you know
right.
what? If you're looking at it from the outside, objectively, they're having a banging season, and they're probably they're doing very well. We're being harsh.
Who wants to take Glasgow then? How would people rate Glasgow season? Kind of a bit under the radar, I feel, in third. No one's kind of thinking of them as the top team, but they have won the Pro 14, I think it was at the time, or the Pro 12 at the time. They're always kind of there or thereabouts. They always seem to make the playoffs. How do we rate Leinster's season so far? Glasgow.
I gave them an A. Same again, similar to Benetton. I expect a lot of Glasgow, but then how can you can't give them an A star when they've just lost to Edinburgh, which is a game that they would have cared about a lot.
Yeah, they kept the cup though. They won the cup on points difference.
Yeah, but the highlight reel of Van der Merwe scoring that try, that's all people will remember from that game.
So true, so true. Was it anybody else disagree? Enda, do you hate or love Glasgow? I think the Irish all hate them, don't they?
I think they're always thereabouts, as you said, and I think A is pretty fair.
Yeah. I mean, this is so not the time to go into a deep dive about this, but it blows my mind how well Franco Smith is doing at Glasgow after what he didn't do for Italy.
Well, that's not fair because he bred all the babies for Italy. He picked players when they were. They wouldn't have beaten Wales if he didn't get battered beforehand. Yeah, I think you'll find it did. But it wouldn't happen if he hadn't given those players a season of experience, of international experience, where, granted, he took a beating. And also, let's not forget, Benetton's one loss in the URC was an absolute battering by Glasgow.
Okay. So our people have voted 62% in favour of an A for Glasgow, which I think is fair. Right, Ulster next. So I'm going to tell you what people voted for before I get your thoughts on this. So the people voted, it's 46% in favour of an A and 46% in favour of a B. So the people are completely split for Ulster between an A and a B. What are we thinking then? Because is this maybe a bit of recency bias? Because people were losing their minds. Ulster fans were losing their minds a few weeks ago, and now they just beat Leinster away. Is it a bit of a? Yeah. I tell you what, everywhere's nice in the sunshine, and we've won a game, so now we're all happy again.
I think it might be a bit. I take us back to the very beginning of the season. That Zebre, again, furious at Zebre. They should have won that game.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I'd go B for Ulster, I think. Yeah, let's not be recency bias. I think up until the last couple of weeks, I remember what they were saying. They were saying sack the coach, sack the board, boycott the ground, all these things. Right. Next, fifth in the league is the Bulls, who are my tip to lift the trophy this season. So what are we saying? Does anyone have any views on the Blue Bulls, or the Vodacom Bulls, as we should call them, and how they've been getting on? Have they met expectations, dropped below expectations?
Hang on a minute.
And they still have a game in hand, let's not forget. I think they've only played 8 games so far this season, so they should be higher. Yeah.
Oh, wait, so they're tied with Edinburgh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, have I missed Edinburgh? I have missed Edinburgh. Oh, no.
I thought mine. I
do
thought I was
hate
looking at something
Scotland.
out of date.
That's why everyone was so quiet. All right, no, okay. It's my show. We're doing Bulls first. We'll do Edinburgh's in a minute.
Yeah, they're on the same points.
Okay. Right. So come on. What do you think of the Bulls, Enda?
I don't know. Before I give an intellectual, informed decision, which I should know, how many of their games have been home and away?
They've done their 4-game away tour. It's out of the way.
In which case, I think they're doing pretty well.
They beat Cardiff, and
They're
I
doing
think
well.
they beat.
They smashed
No,
Connacht.
they didn't. They smashed Connacht. I don't think they lost to Glasgow, and I can't remember what their other game was. Might have been Edinburgh. I'm not sure.
In which case, I think that's ominous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to go down to South Africa and take on the Bulls. Yeah, it's not going to happen, is it? I think they've probably.
I don't think
played
they've
blind.
lost. Sorry, keep going, Coach.
No.
I was just because like no non-South African team has beaten the Bulls at the Bulls. Like no one wins there apart from a South African team. So I think that's, as you said, like well, like if they can keep up that home form, which I think they will, they could go all the way. Which I keep going, Coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add or say to that potentially is there any. Could it be that some teams earlier on the season, when they're going to South Africa, expect to lose a bit and they play accordingly? There's a lot of stuff for them to play for at home. When it gets towards the end of the season, you might find teams putting in a little bit stronger sides, maybe, when they go to South Africa, because they need the win, as opposed to, well, let's rest him because we've got that big home game coming up. So
maybe. I honestly can't see anyone beating the Bulls because it's the altitude factor as well, and they play incredible rugby. So that's why I picked them to win the title this year. And for me, I mean, the people have gone for 56% B, which I think is maybe taking into account that they've had that 4-game tour, and South African teams don't always tour the North particularly well, particularly the next South African team we'll talk about in a minute. So I think I agree with Coach. I think it's ominous. If they're there already, having done their tour, look out. I think they're only going up from here. Right, let's circle back then and do Edinburgh. For me, Ben Healy, URC signing of the season. He's played every minute for Edinburgh. He's top for kicks from hand. He's top for kick meters. He's stood up for them. He's dropping goals with the clock in the red. Eddie, what are we making of Edinburgh this season? Is this the best they've been in a long while?
yeah, I think, well, maybe not for a long while. I would say that when I started supporting Benetton, Edinburgh were pretty bang average, and they really have collectively come up a long, long way. So yeah, I would give them a B. And of course they did beat Glasgow in the big stadium when everyone was watching. So
yep.
B plus. Do we do pluses? Yeah, we can do a plus.
We can do pluses. We did, the Twitter poll only lets you give 4 options, and I didn't have time to do all the pluses. But the people gave them a B, 60% in favour of a B. So I think Edinburgh, that's fair enough. A B.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure didn't Benetton squeeze past Edinburgh by like
Ben Healy missed a
hair.
goal in the last kick of the game.
Yeah.
See, that's,
oh my god.
I mean, if they
that's
got
when
that,
Coach talks about his heart attacks. That's what he means.
Yeah,
that was awful. What was that about? Could have kicked. Was that the one where we could have just kicked it out, or kicked for?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
no,
it
just
was.
gone for a kick.
They could have gone for the
That's
post.
the
They
one
could have done
we
all
decided
sorts
to
of stuff.
tap and go. No,
they
guys,
tapped
it's
and
the one where we decided to tap and go in the middle of the pitch when we had a
around the halfway
penalty.
line. Yeah, no, that's Coach is right. That is that's bad for the old system.
Giving them a B minus. Back to B minus for Benetton.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
So we've done. So Stormers is the next team. So Stormers, obviously 2-time finalist, 1-time champions. They lost all 4 of their away games. So they lost to Cardiff, and I think they And did they lose to Leinster? I can't remember. Was I the Sharks? I'm getting confused with. But anyway, they lost all 4 of their away games, and
They lost to Benetton, yeah.
they are making a habit of. They've obviously got all their Springboks back from the World Cup, and they're continuing the trend of only winning by 1 point. It's not fun if it's not by 1. Obviously, is the rule in the Stormers. So, what do we think then? They're a bit low in the table, but they have got their tour out of the way.
I think a C, because they're still in the running. They've still got, we're quite glowing about the Bulls and Edinburgh. Stormers have the same number of points, but we expect more because they are URC 1 champions and URC 2.
Yeah.
No.
Finalists.
Yeah.
Finalists, because Munster
URC 2 runners
beat
up.
them. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, so you expect a lot of them, but they're still absolutely in the running. So a C.
Well, that's what the people went for, 57% C.
Wow. The people are harsh.
Well, maybe. I think now they've got Manny.
It is Twitter.
Yeah, they got Manny and Willemser and Bury back. I think a lot of people are expecting them to just go up the table at the end of this and be very much in the latter stages. Right. Next team on the list is the first Welsh team that we're talking about is the Ospreys, currently sitting in 8th, last playoff spot. I shall declare I'm a Scarlets fan, and the Ospreys are our sworn enemies. So I'm never going to give a completely unbiased review of them. So can I get some neutral perspective on what the Ospreys have been like this season?
Well, it depends if it's the young Ospreys or the old Ospreys.
The old Osprey.
He was so annoyed.
What happened when we
Toby
played
Booth
them?
insisted
that
they did not send a B team. He insisted
They
Well, they kept, well, the commentators, it wasn't like a press release or anything, but yeah, they kept calling them the young Ospreys every time something happened on the pitch, mainly negative, to remind the viewers that this might not be the Ospreys. But yeah, the Welsh have had their troubles, haven't they? So I can see why they might want to enforce that by how they address them, that they're the young Ospreys. But I think, I'd probably give them, considering what they've got, probably a solid C. C out of 10.
Go B.
You're going B, Eddie? Any vote?
My gut wants to give them a C, but logically that doesn't make any sense considering they're 1 point behind the Stormers, and after everything they've gone through. And
It's a B. It's got to be a B.
So the Ospreys have played the most home games and the most games in Wales out of any of the Welsh teams. They haven't played Leinster, Munster, or Ulster, and they haven't gone to South Africa yet.
I see what you mean about being a Scarlets fan.
Yep.
And the Ospreys beat Benetton annoyingly in the Challenge Cup.
That was a weird game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. So, and they are, sorry, mate, they are doing the best out of all the Welsh.
I mean, there's 3 teams clear of the next, Cardiff is the next Welsh region there. So I think it's a B. I'd give them a B.
I think.
Well, the people gave them a B, 45% B. Right.
There you go.
And your team next, Connacht, down in 9th. So after an incredible start, have slipped out of the playoff places. So maybe a bit of recency bias again. Things not going so well lately. You did get a win down in South Africa, even if it's against a weaker Sharks team. It's not to be sniffed at. But the people have given them 58% C. Feels a bit harsh.
Yeah, especially when they consider who they've played Munster, Leinster, Ulster, and they've played 2 away games in South Africa. And let's not forget they had a really strong start to the season. I think it's a little harsh. I would say a B for me, and I think that I still think they could finish top 8 by the end of the season. It's unfortunate now that Matt Hansen's going to miss the entire Six Nations. And hopefully Aki doesn't pick Anton up during Six Nations, so hopefully they'll both be back after that. And improve things. But I still think I've said it kind of from the beginning of the season. I think they've actual depth this year, especially with JJ Hanra coming in at 10, providing real competition there for Jack Carty. So I think people are being a bit harsh, and they should have won that Leinster game. And so like they absolutely should have.
Oh
won
God,
that game.
I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. I'm not even a Connacht fan, and I was
I
fuming.
thought about not watching rugby anymore after that. That was incredibly frustrating.
There was a sellout crowd as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
So B for me.
Okay, so the people have gone 58% C. I think B is more fair. I think that's a bit recency bias. I think also your Champions Cup form people maybe including that in this as well. But I think you've got your worst of your fixtures out of the way now, most of them. So I think you'll probably improve a bit from there. Speaking of injury news, though, Munster. So Munster have had a tough couple of weeks, whether it be RG Snyman buggering off to Leinster. Jean Klein is now out for the season as well. Joey Carberry's off to, well, we don't know officially where he's going yet, but people think it might be France. And injuries galore, and sitting a lowly 10th, the defending URC 2 champions, down in 10th. This is not where we thought we'd see Munster, is it?
No, and they scraped a win against Benetton.
Yeah.
I'm not frustrated by that at all.
Have you played them twice already?
No, it was in Treviso, and Benetton were well and truly had it in the bag.
Away.
And then
Classic Munster picking up a result like that.
Yeah, infuriating.
But I still think their season, I would give them like a D, because I think if you, at the beginning of the season, injuries aside, because they are reigning champions, if you told them halfway through the season they were going to be 10th, I think they'd all be bitterly disappointed. So I think there's nothing else. They would call that a failure of a start of a season, I think. So a D as well.
This is a URC rating, but the draw at home to Bayonne in the Champions Cup, that was a shocker. Like they should have been doing better than that. And then they threw it away against Exeter, I think, as well in the second round. So yeah, not going perfectly there. But so we've just covered 5th to 10th. I can tell you that there's only 2 points between 5th and 10th. So there's a range of scores there. So people gave Munster a D. So between 5th and 10th, we've got B, C's and D's, but there's only 2 points between them. So that goes to show kind of the expectations that people have on this. So next team is the Lions. Just kind of surprised to be this high, to be honest. So they've just beaten the Sharks at Ellis Park, and it was an emotional one, an incredible finish. And
have only played 8 games.
Only played 8 games. Okay,
Yeah.
so that kind of makes the scores that they've got surprising. So 33% C, 32% D, and yet they are 11th in the league. You would say that traditionally maybe not traditionally, but in recent years they've been the weakest of the South African teams, and yet they've got a game in hand over the teams above them, and they've played up north. So I don't know, Enda, they're your favourite teams. Do you have a view on the Lions? Do you think C's and D's is a bit harsh?
That's definitely harsh. When you look at their budget, when you look at everything, we look at their squad. Yeah, I'd give them B to B plus for me, for what they've achieved so far this season. They've some quality players. For me, definitely B. I think C and D would just be no. It's great to see them where they are as well. Nobody wants to see, I think, the Sharks, especially as a new team, especially because we can all agree that we're probably all massive URC fans. It's not great seeing a South African team, especially one like the Sharks, rock bottom. But I almost think I prefer the Lions being higher than at the moment, because like we all know the Sharks will be back, especially with the cash they have behind them. But yeah, very harsh to give them a C or D.
They also smashed Zebre.
They did.
They had 61 points. It looked like they were playing on like an Aussie rules football pitch, the way they had space for days. I thought that was hugely impressive.
Yeah. Cardiff next, so the next Welsh team. So Cardiff So I have this thing with Cardiff where I'm giving them a lot more grace this season because there's such a difficult summer and things were going so wrong for them off the pitch during the summer. So I'm kind of giving them this season now. They seem to still be suffering a lot of players leaving at the moment. Thomas Williams has been confirmed as leaving to Gloucester. There's now rumours in the papers today about Mason Grady being off as well. And I'm sure that won't be the last one that we hear about. So I'm kind of more positive about Cardiff. They concede too many points, and I think that's down to the fact that their defence coach is literally part-time and only takes 2 sessions a week. That probably doesn't help. So people voted.
Wait, is that fact or is that a joke?
That's fact. No, Gethin Jenkins is on a consultancy basis. He's not full-time. He's their defence coach. The audio listeners, Ellie is shocked.
Shocked. What a great job. 2 days, rock up,
but
hit lower boys, go back.
He is Cardiff through and through, so I'm sure he puts in a couple of extra hours here and there.
Oh yeah, I'm joking.
So do you think is that? Sorry, this is a whole other conversation. Is that a money thing? Like they can't afford to keep him for?
Yeah, so they've just been taken over, so they've got new owners now, but their main financial benefactor, Peter Thomas, very sadly passed away in the spring of last year, and that left them with some serious cash flow issues. According to, they put a press statement out saying we have cash flow concerns, but they've managed to get through it, and
Wow.
yeah, they've got a big game to look forward to against Harlequins this weekend. But 40% D, 38% C, I think is a bit harsh. I think based on their defence, I would probably say a C, but they've actually picked up a losing bonus points in every game that they've lost so far this season. So they've only won 2 games, but they picked up a losing bonus point in every game. But again, like the Ospreys, they've had favourable fixtures as well.
I would say they were lucky, in my opinion. Cardiff fans would say the opposite, but I would say they were lucky to draw against Zebre. I know that they will say they were lucky. Yeah. Zebre were lucky to draw against them, but because Zebre scored a try at the death to get the draw. But overall, that game, I thought Zebre Palmer should have had it. But however, you know, there is a bit of a cliff in this table, and they are definitely on the right side of it. So they're still definitely looking at playoff opportunities.
I think that might be a bit beyond them. I think they've, just because they're going to go into some nasty fixtures coming up for the second half of the season. But yeah, I think that's okay. I would probably give them a C. Right, we're now going to jump over the cliff. So there's a 9-point gap between 12th and 13th in the table. And that gap is between Cardiff and Scarlets. So Scarlets being my team. We're really bad. we suck. So I do a Scarlets podcast, and we go through all of the things every week on there. And yeah, we're pretty much saying the same thing every week. And I think the thing that's concerning for me as a fan at the moment is we don't seem to be showing much progression week on week. We started the season badly and have just continued to be not good. So yeah, it's just I'm not really sure where the team's going at the moment. Is kind of my worry about it. So yeah, it was 39% F, 33% E. Scarlets fans awarded that. I do have a sneaking suspicion that some of the other Welsh regions fan bases hijacked some of these votes. And, but to be honest,
it's sneaky, I tell you.
We somehow managed to rob 2 wins against Cardiff, which is funny. But yeah, if I'm being honest, I gotta go ahead. Zebre is next. So Eddie, I think you said on Twitter, because the way that we structured the polls, the highest that we were able to give Zebre in the votes was a C, but you suggested that maybe they deserve higher than a C.
Yeah, I mean, I would give them a B for the same reason that Scarlets get an F. It's because it's all about, you know, your expectation coming into something and your sort of attainment. You know, have a really thick child who works really hard, or you have a genius who's a bit lazy. You know, they can both be in set 2 for maths, but it means completely different things. So I think when someone asked me before what success looked like for Zebre this season, I was like, don't finish last, win some games. And that would be a successful season. And they're well on the way to doing that.
They've only won one. But,
well, yeah, but then they won in the Challenge Cup as well. So overall in the season, they've won 2, drawn 1. In the URC, They've won one, drawn one, but they've still got Scarlets to come, and they've still got Dragons to come. Which I'm not saying that Zebre will win those, but you've got to target your games.
Yeah, competitive games.
Yeah.
Games that they can hope to get a result out of. I've got a question about the win. Do they take flares to every game and just hope that one day will be the flare day?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
They're an amazing group of people.
Fantastic. I love that.
They're called the S155 guys. They've kind of been nicknamed. I don't know if you guys have this I guess in football. In Italy, we call like the sort of diehard fans of a football club the ultras.
Yes.
The ones that like go. And we've basically nicknamed these guys from S155, who are the friendliest, loveliest, most welcoming people. But because they have flares and they have a massive flag and a drum, the ultras of the URC, because they just should be. And there's about 30 of them, and they take those flares, and even if they don't win, those flares will come out.
At the derby they just had in Treviso, about 50 of them turned up, and they drowned out the entire stadium in Treviso. All you could hear, and they haven't got like one chant. They're like a French supporters. They've got about 20 different songs.
Yeah.
Honestly, they drowned the stadium out. Like Benetton was silenced by this like tiny group in the top right-hand corner of the stands, just screaming and banging that drum throughout the whole game. They're amazing.
They had a trumpet. Whenever Benetton tried to outsing them, one guy got out a trumpet.
Yeah, we've had this debate on the Scarlets pod that we need to get more drums and trumpets into Welsh stadiums.
Yeah.
And not the children's choirs that we normally have, which are a bit weird. Great, fantastic, but different,
Better than the ones that sang the national anthems at the World Cup.
So I sold this story on a different podcast. It didn't click for me that it was multiple children's choirs. I thought a children's choir was singing an anthem and then getting in a van and getting driven to the next stadium and doing a different anthem. I didn't realise like that France is a pretty big country and that would have been a nightmare.
I love the getting in a van, get in the back of the van.
So yeah. But man, when they stopped doing them, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when they like stopped doing the children's choirs. And then, like I wanted to be there when the teacher, because obviously it's a teacher that is in charge of the choir. And the teacher had gone, "Listen, kids, we're not doing the next game. Why not, miss? Because everybody hates you."
But I think it was pre-recorded, and it was just, I think they said it was just turned down and some other stuff was turned up because it was a cappella at the beginning, and it was so anticlimactic. You've waited 4 years for this World Cup, France versus New Zealand, here we go. And then yeah.
Are you wearing a URC jumper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look, I mean, if someone gives me stash, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna wear it.
Where'd you get it from?
I could tell you I have to kill you. He'll be gone by the time this comes out. I've got a friend who works there.
For another
we should talk offline.
Days.
Right. Next team, Dragons. This is one where I think there's been some vote sabotaging going on, because Dragons got 35% F, 32% E, and 30% D. So typical Welsh rugby, no consensus whatsoever. No one can agree what to. So for me, the Dragons are the same as they are every season. So why are they getting an F? Like, what did people expect? So I don't know. What am I wrong? You guys tell me. What would you give the Dragons?
That's a very different parenting style to coach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my kid's coming home and they go, I failed my maths test, Dad. I'm like, oh, you fail all of them, don't you? So
Yeah, at least you're consistent.
Yeah.
I sort of see what you're saying. I mean, 2 wins, 7 losses. Not a lot of bonus points. Nah. Let's see.
I think E is harsh enough.
Yeah.
I mean, hang on. Yeah, but what was Dragons won one of their derbies, didn't they?
Yeah, Dragons beat Scarlets. And they beat Ospreys as well. earlier this season.
So I think you could. I don't think you could be too harsh on them for that, because they're that's big.
Yeah, they're on 3 home wins in a row for the first time in like forever. They've gone like whole years without a home win before now.
Right. Give them a C.
So, give them a C.
Hey, everyone gets a
C.
C. And then last team, Sharks.
They do
What do
not
we
get a
say?
C.
How low does it go?
So a U wasn't a version in the poll, but a U is a grade that is awarded to people. So I can allow a U.
Ungradable.
Ungradable, yeah.
But it's just because we expect so much from them. You know, they are some of the rock star headline acts that have come to this tournament, and this season they are just so flat.
Yeah.
Would you be really pissed off if you were Hollywood Bets? I would be really pissed off.
Yeah, I'd be like, excuse me, can I?
You say that.
Right? You're like, yeah, we'll take over the sponsorship this year. Yeah, they're great. And then you look.
I
at
bet
this
they're quids
table.
in. I bet they're actually laughing because they're a business, and all the Sharks fans be betting through Hollywood Bets on the Sharks, and each one of those bets, Hollywood Bets are cashing in.
So they're doing it on purpose? He's saying it's insider trading, is what you're saying.
Actually, yeah, we should write to the press.
It's money laundering.
So I can tell you that 294 people voted on the Sharks poll, and 91% of them voted for F. It is the most
lowest. Yeah.
the most unanimous of all of them. So yeah. So
Yeah.
right.
I mean, probably the fairest too with that squad with that cash behind.
Yeah.
If you said earlier on, before the season started, that halfway through it, Zebre Palm would be above Sharks, I wonder what your odds would be at Hollywood Bets for that.
Yeah, that's a good. Oh, didn't the Sharks do this graphic for when they played Zebra of a shark eating a zebra and then they lost?
Probably.
Did they?
I didn't see the graphic. I mean,
I'll see if
They need to drop this hashtag Fear the Fin. That it needs to go.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
The fin is like
We
the
were
least scary bit of a shark.
we were really lucky at that game. We were in the tunnel before they came out, so we were like in the middle of the tunnel as the players came out. And I mean, it's not an original thought, but they were massive. When you see them all pumped up with their chests pumped up, all coming out, you're like, oh, this looks so painful. But then they've still got some real talent. What's that? The cock, the winger. I love that guy.
Yeah,
Bernard Cock. He is such a good player. Former Sevens
but
player.
hasn't he got like a stupidly low try scoring record? He's scored like 9 tries in his Sharks career, something daft, like ridiculously low number of tries.
Maybe he just because he looks so cool.
Yeah. And every time he gets tackles, it looks like a head knock because all his hair goes like that.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh my God, he's been absolute, and he's not. It's just his hair.
Oh, I found this. I mean, I don't know if it's the graphic, but sorry. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yes,
pumped up,
that was it. The Prey versus
shark.
Predator. Yes.
Look at
That's the
that.
one.
Look at that. Steroided up.
The arrogance
zebra
of
and
that.
shark.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh dear, pride comes before a fall. Right. That concludes our URC mid-term gradings. We should revisit it at the end of the season and come up with our final scores, because it doesn't matter how you start, doesn't matter how you middle, it matters how you finish. Right. On to our club and international obscureness roundup. So, Celtic Challenge. So we spoke a little bit about this a few weeks ago when we had Catherine on, talking about the new women's competition that is a bit like the URC, but not. So 2 Welsh teams, 2 Scottish teams, 2 Irish teams playing each other in a league and development tournament. So I can tell you that Welsh side, Gwalior Lightning, are top, both they and the Wolfhounds, which I think is the Ulster Leinster duo, one from Ireland. They're both on 9 points after 2 games, having won both games. Thunder and Glasgow sit bottom with 0 wins, but it's very early days. These are literally the first games these teams have ever played in their existence. So we're enjoying it. It's on Rugby Pass TV for anybody who wants to watch it. and it's completely free to watch, so that's great. And what else has been happening over in England?
Yeah, there's a cracking game in the English Premiership this weekend between Exeter and Saints. Saints were away from home. They were down 26 points, I believe, at one stage and came back to win 42-36. What else going on in that league? Saracens are down in 6th after they lost to Tigers. Moving then to the top 14. Racing are top after a win over Cast. Bordeaux are chasing hard in 2nd, while Montpellier are slowly starting to turn around, having won 4 of their 5 last games. La Rochelle also doing a lot better in the last 2 games. What's going on in the wonderful world of the Pro D2, Huw?
Just quickly, do you guys follow Montpellier very much? Because obviously your guy Garbisi plays for them.
Yeah, I try to follow the Italians abroad. There's a great account, actually. They're really, really good. But yeah, there's rumours of him going to Toulon. Don't know if you read them. They came out.
Because he's not getting much game time, is he, at the moment for Montpellier?
They play him at 12 a lot. And my mind's just forgotten the name of the Carbonell. That's the name. That's the right name. Yeah, they've really put their faith in him at 10, and it's not useful for Italy at all. So hopefully Andrea Massi and Sergio Parise at Toulon can get him in and get him playing at 10.
He can keep the bench warm while Stan Bigger goes and sorts things out for Toulon. Right. So Pro D2 then. So Varna back top after their wobble. They had just 1 win in 5, but they beat Angoulême. And so they look like they're getting a bit back on track. And Beziers are now 2nd after Rafael Storti of Portugal fame scored 4 tries and set up another in their game. And our friend Francisco was going crazy on Twitter about this. It was quite incredible to watch. Japan League 1, Wild Knights are top after a 100% start. Toshiba Brave Lupus are also on 100% start, but are a point behind. Honda Heat are not good. They have shipped 251 points in 4 games.
That's Kieran Crowley's side.
Is it?
Yeah. He'll turn it around, though.
They got.
I bet they're not kicking.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Don't even go there. They got linked with Lewis Rees Summit over the weekend, and I was like, don't do it, mate. What about the All Irelands League, Enda?
So, yeah, we had some free-to-air coverage on YouTube of the Bateman Cup final between Terenure College and Young Munster. Terenure came out victorious 22-15. However, it is worth pointing out that Young Munster were down to 14 men after the 35th minute after a player was red carded. How's everything in the Welsh Premiership, Huw?
So Llandovery are still top after beating Pontypridd, only by 1 point. So that's slipping by Llandovery standards, only to win by a point or 2. Carmarthen Quins got just their 2nd win of the season after beating Bridgend, with Scarlets young player and former Bucks player Charlie Titcombe really doing the business for them, scored all of their points in that game, only their 2nd win of the season. And then, Enda, do you want to wrap us up with, what's it called again?
Premiership Women's Rugby. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but yeah, Saracens they're top as they maintained a 100% start to the season with a 69-3 points win away at Sale, and Tigers unfortunately are still bottom with no wins. And just briefly moving on to the TV guide, we will have it out as usual on our breakfast show on Friday morning. But there is plenty coming up. We've got the Challenge Cup, we've got the Championship Cup, we've got more Premiership Women's Rugby, Celtic Challenge continues, and I believe that is it. So we'll have plenty of information on about all those fixtures on Friday's show.
Okay, and I believe that wraps us up then. So thank you so much to our guests, Eddie, Ellie, and Coach. Do you want to plug your podcast? I'm sure you've probably got a bigger audience than us anyway, but go ahead and tell us all about it.
I don't think so, but our podcast is called Spritz Scrums. It focuses on Italian rugby, primarily Benetton, Zebre Parma, and the Italian national side. So if anyone wants to sound knowledgeable leading into the Six Nations, do give us a listen, and also follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well, if you feel so inclined.
And if you haven't come out to Monego to watch a game, I cannot recommend it enough. If it's if your team is ever out there towards Venice, it's the best away weekend you could hope for. Honestly, we made a little video, a quick Instagram reel this week about an away trip in Treviso, so check that out. It tells you kind of everything you need to know and what to expect. It's the home of Prosecco, it's the home of tiramisu.
Sold.
What's not to like,
Sold.
guys? Yeah.
We did one for Parma as well.
You get
Don't
amazing
feel left
interviews
out.
as well. You've had Tommy Allen and Paolo Adogwu as well recently.
No, we didn't get Alan. That was Fratelli, the rugby.
We've had
I think. We did get a dog. We've had a Adogwu. We've had Montione. We've had Jacob Umanga, and we've had Andrea Piardi,
the referee,
the Italian referee,
who's getting his first Six Nations game.
And Silvia Tirani, who plays now for Harlequins. Yeah, so we've had lovely people on. We're having a great time. Join us on the podcast. Thank you so much for having us, guys. It's been so fun.
And if you're extra lucky, Eddie will recite Hamlet to you.
Yes, I'll get it right this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So brilliant. I think we can end it there, Enda.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks again, guys, for jumping on.
Thanks.
No,
Grazie
thank you.
mille.